Hello, I'm attorney Dan Marr from the Nashua, New Hampshire law firm of Hamlin Kerrigan. I've been practicing in New Hampshire for approximately 39 years and in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for approximately 28 to 29 years. And during that period of time, I've dealt with a variety of matters for a variety of business and individual clients. And part of that has been real estate. I've dealt with everything from boundary line issues to owners of real estate wanting to divide up their property. That provision or that process is called a partition action, and I'm going to talk about the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I've done other art vlogs before focusing in on New Hampshire, and there's a New Hampshire statute, and Massachusetts likewise has a statute, and I've dealt with partition action dividing up homes and other properties in Massachusetts as well. So first point I want to raise is if you're dealing with a business property, if you're dealing with something that's in a limited liability company or a corporation, like whether or not it's New Hampshire or Massachusetts for matter, that's an issue between the shareholders of this corporation or the members if it's in a limited liability company. I've dealt with those issues in regards to dissolutions of the companies or buyouts of the company. But that's separate to a partition action. Partition action is when different entities or individuals own a piece of property and want to divide it up. If two entities own it, they can also do a partition action. In Massachusetts, we allow the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does allow that. It's pretty much in the land court that you file those actions, and I've dealt with those cases. And what happens is the court first sees if there's a way that the parties can resolve the matter, but if they can't, they'll look for a commissioner to be appointed. And my experience with the commissioners are quite competent in regards to this. And there's certain rules to follow in regards to the process. If it's a house, what needs to be done? Was it occupied, or is it still occupied by somebody, one of the owners that wants to stay there? Is there a tenant there that there's a question as to what the owners really promised that tenant? Those types of issues might have to be resolved regarding eviction of that person. Cleaning up the place so it looks good for sale. Obviously, a property looks a lot better when it's empty, and maybe it's even staged. If it's a house or a business, it might be better if it's a long-term lease with a good commercial tenant in there. If it's that's producing, that can make a valuable income property. All of those things are factored in by the commissioner. Again, if the two parties can't resolve the issue amongst themselves, usually it's a house situation. That my experience is. Sometimes it's people dividing up the commercial property, but the commercial property you can usually find somebody to buy it unless one of the owners is occupying it and they want to occupy it at a lower rent. Then you have to deal with those issues, and I've addressed those issues too. And there's some fiduciary obligations between two owners of a limited liability company or a corporation. And I can talk about that if you give me a call. But in an individual situation, it's left by your parents to the 5 kids, and the 5 kids don't all agree of how it's going to be disposed of. Ultimately, the court, if there's not an agreement, is going to likely say it's going to be a sale of that property, and then there's going to be the net proceeds distributed between the parties. How that gets distributed, there's a whole question in regards to who is living there, and where others having the opportunity to live there, and if they had the opportunity to live there, were they not there because the person that's living there forced them to stay out, or maybe made threats to them? Any of those issues are things that the courts in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will consider. They'll also look at the person that's living there, if they're getting some benefit, if they're paying, maybe they have a full house and they're paying $1,000 total a month for everything, including utilities and everything else. They're really getting a benefit in Massachusetts if they have a 3-bedroom home that they're keeping for $1,000. So that's something that the courts can consider, particularly if they're of such a personality that the other people can't move in there either, or they have other reasons that they can't move in. All of those things are factored in by the court. It is a process that should start early when you can't resolve the issue between the individuals. Sometimes it's pretty clear when you're talking to them that they're dragging their feet, and then you start the process, and then they can't drag. The courts still takes a long time, but they can't drag their feet, and they get pushed into the right move of the sale of the property. I'm attorney Dan Marr. I've dealt with this both in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the state of New Hampshire. And again, I have another vlogs in regards to partition actions in the state of New Hampshire you can look at. You can go to our webpage of nationallaw.com, check on my bio, and click down to my YouTube weekly vlogs, which are all by topic. You can review any of those. You can also reach me at 603-883-5501. 603-883-5501. Attorney Dan Marr, happy to help you if the opportunity arises. Thank you.